Hey, it's end time. Maybe final part on this man's death. The 90-something-year-old man that froze to death because they put a limit on his electricity because he had $1,100. Okay, all right. Now watch this. Okay, let me. Oh, man, I just had something hit me right between my daggum eyes, and it like a brick, and it woke me up to something. Okay. Let end time slow down a minute, and let me tell you something. I want you to hear me real clear. Okay. Banks are too big to fail. According to Paulson, the Nazi Paulson, the communist, the socialist Paulson, according to the communist dictator that's gone now, Bush, according to also, watch this, liberal, according to Obama, because he wanted the bailout, according to McCain, because he wanted the bailout, it don't make a dang gum if it's Democrat or Republican. The banks were too big to fail. We would have had an economic collapse if we hadn't put the TARP money out there. If you don't vote for it, it's going to collapse. Yet and still, guess what? I bet you the old man couldn't have got him a loan, which he had the money. He was probably sick, or I don't know the situation, but I know they shouldn't have cut his friggin' lights off where they froze to death. But I wonder if Franklin Raines, while he was getting his parachute, Fannie and Freddie was collapsing and we had to bail them out. You know, I wonder if all these other Bank of America and all them that, you know, I remind you, North Carolina based, and the place in Chicago, the window place, went under. They didn't pay the people their money, and it's amazing that freaking story disappeared, ain't it? I wonder if Bank of America and Citigroup and all these different banks that got their money, they got their parachutes, they still had their big Christmases, they had all this. I wonder that when they lay down at night, if they ever think about a 90-something-year-old man that might freeze to death, because he did not have leniency. But yet all the banks have a bailout. Nobody bailed out the old man. End Time Watchman is just trying to tell you there's something wrong with the picture. There is something big time wrong that you should consider thinking about if you're an everyday American citizen. You see? Because I got news for you. They're going to continue. And if you're a liberal and you voted for Obama, you're screwed, blued, and tattooed, baby. Because he don't care about you. He could give a rat's behind about you. You're not going to get your free mortgage. You're not going to get your free friggin' gas, okay? You're not going to be elevated to some kind of status of position just because you're a person of color or you're a liberal. It's not going to happen. You have been fooled. Obama is one of the biggest Ponzi schemes there's ever been. Because Obama is set up to take the fall for what Bush enacted. In other words, Obama will just be the fall guy, the puppet, and everybody in the end will see that he's the failure. They blame Bush for everything for 8 years. Now, guess what? If God tarries, by the end of this month, not the end of this month, by the end of this year, he will be blamed by the conservatives. But the conservatives ought to be smart enough to know that all it was set up by Bush for Obama to implement it. That's why I can't understand why a liberal or a conservative, a Democrat or a Republican can't break through the ranks and realize it ain't about a party. It's about survival. And if we don't join bands together, it's not going to happen. Let's get back to the issue of the man. Bay City News. January 27th, 2009, 8:17 a.m. Bay City raises electric rates as Marvin Shearer's death spurs anger. Oh, yeah. Okay. We got a man that froze to death. Had a limiter put on there. Okay. Let me show you the tenacity, the callous, the uncaring of the very city that the people pay the taxes in. They're raising your friggin' rates because it's winter, because they need more money. They got to generate more money because they blowed the money. People of Michigan, they blowed the money. Okay? Because I've been around city workers and council and all that in different states, and they're sorry, they're fat, they don't give a rat's behind about doing nothing. It takes 5 of them to change a friggin' light bulb, okay? At $15 to $20 an hour. They're no good. They're useless. But yet, we don't do nothing about it because we're not men anymore. Remember on the last videos? Remember? But let's move on. Let's see here if we can read this here. It says, Bay City resident John Tennant, which is a hero, tells the gathered Bay City commissioners he's outraged that the 93-year-old Marvin Schumer froze to death in his home. Let's scroll on down on this computer. The Bay City Commission voted to raise electric rates 3% on Monday. What voters wanted to talk about was how a 93-year-old man froze to death in his home after the city limited his electric use. Yeah, they were mad about the rates being raised, but what they wanted to know was, why did the man have to freeze to death because he owed $1,100? Why did he? If the man was 35 years old and owed $1,100, okay, that might be one thing. But the man was 90-something years old. They should have knocked on the door till they got the man, responded to the man, offered the man, look, we'll take the money in for you. We know you're old. But you see what End Time Watchman's trying to tell you? The callousness of America today is, I don't care about nobody else but me. That's the very reason that we're going to be destroyed as a nation. It's because there's no caring for anybody but you. I remind you that one of the greatest things that we can do is to help the elderly and to take care of the elderly. But at the same time, I thought that's what government was set up for. Was for the elderly and to be limited in its government and to help those out and to set Social Security up for a retirement plan that they would be able to. Do you see what I'm trying to tell you? The system's set up for him not to be able to pay the bills. It's just a part of the New World Order system that he does die and freeze to death, because that's part of their agenda, is to kill us any which way they can. I'm not being hypothetical. I'm not reaching out there in Mars and trying to look at a paper and bring it back and expect a Martian wrote it and expect you to believe that this come from Mars. This is reality. This is America. This is today. Don't you see? You got to understand something. They pick and choose who is put in, and those that are put in are screened. And they're told that they're puppets. They're told that they'll be taken care of. But do not befriend, do not indulge yourself with the citizenry of America, because if you do, you're in jeopardy of losing your pension, your job, and everything. You do as you're told, you puppet. Is pretty much what it amounts to. So because they want to be loyal to the system, there's negligent homicide with the guy that put the limiter on there and the councilman and all that. But yet they want to put the blame on the neighbor, that the neighbor should have come over and checked on him. I would to God in heaven that I would have been his neighbor, and that I would have seen him put that limiter on there, because I'd already been interacting with that man, and I'd have took the friggin' limiter off, and that little fat piece of garbage that went over there and put it on to come back to put it on, I'd have stomped a mud hole in his butt and walked it dry. But that's the difference in me and a lot of men in America. You see? That's your difference. You see? Because it was a little coward that put it on there that didn't have enough guts to go to the old man, to respond to the old man, to try to work something out, to have integrity. An elected official is supposed to be one of the most that carries the most integrity of anybody around. They're supposed to have more integrity than the citizen, because they're elected to represent that citizen. You see? But anyway, I'm trying to end this. I really am. I'm trying to get some other stuff. Miss Kathy O'Brien said she was horrified, 46. She was horrified to hear about the death of Mr. Shure. It could have been anybody's dad, said O'Brien. She came to the meeting with her 16-year-old son, Jeremiah. 250 readers posted comments about the story of Shure's death on the Times website. Every one of them called it sick, horrible, shameful, disturbing, cold, and inhumane. And most of those blamed the city, saying the city should be sued, saying the city manager should resign. I'll tell you what you ought to do. You ought to go down to the city, all of you that posted it, and you ought to drag them out of there, and you ought to tell them that you're fired. We the people are going to elect somebody that we can trust, that won't freeze to death and kill old men. Every friggin' one of them needs to be took out of there. End of story. I'll see you. End Time Watchman.